markets, the economy, the Fed, crypto, President Trump, and the whole works now. Joining us live, John Najarian. Dr. J, as he's known on the major financial networks, co-founder of Market Rebellion, financial commentator, options expert, co-author of his latest book, It's Not an Option. Learning how to trade options is no longer an option, it's a necessity. He also has the laser eyes on, too, following the cryptos closely. Sounds like we got the right guy on the line here now. John Najarian, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Oh, it's always great to speak with you. And Frank, I was speaking at a crypto conference in Miami this morning and a Web3 property rights conference, tokenizing properties and things like that. And now I'm at the New York Stock Exchange. I had to step away from the bagpipes because there's a charity called Building Homes for Heroes that we support. And Liz Clayman and a bunch of your friends here in New York support this charity vigorously, along with Lowe's, by the way, LOWES, the stores that help people build homes and so forth. It's great to be here for that, and I just wanted to mention them because the homes that they build, there is no mortgage on them. They give the homes to the heroes, the people that are coming back with life-changing injuries from these many wars that we're in. Hopefully we hear a lot less of these wars going forward. That's, I think, every American's hope. It's a fabulous night to celebrate these very generous folks that are giving their money and time. So I'm delighted to be here with you as well. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much, John Najarian. We are there with you in spirit, and our salute to the combat wounded and everyone you're trying to help there with new homes, building homes for heroes. That sounds wonderful, and I want to get more information about that, certainly. But what an epic week, and you've had an epic day, it sounds like, at that crypto conference, which, of course, on a day in which Bitcoin at an all-time high, and, of course, the Trump trade is on. Give us your reaction to this epic run-up for the stock market this week and the huge run-up we've seen in the cryptos, too.
Well, you're exactly right. And I was lucky enough to be, like I say, down there in Miami with Michael Casey, definitely an OG in the crypto space. The group of folks that were gathered down there from MIT, Harvard, and all over Europe and so forth and Asia were pretty interesting. And they certainly believed, as I do, that this administration, being the first new administration to ever support crypto, means it's going to be a pretty bright future. Doesn't mean every day is going to be up, up, up and away. Certainly has been that for a couple 48 hours or so now. But I think we'll see an awful lot of folks gravitating towards crypto now that they have a friendly administration to it. So that's something I think that all of the crypto aficionados knew, but people that are just in regular society might not be as focused on that there has never been since Satoshi Nakamoto or whoever it was created Bitcoin. There has never been a supportive administration, and now we have one. So I think the future is so bright we got to wear shades.
Fantastic. With laser eyes on, of course, as always. And let me ask you this, John Najarian, with President Trump considered the first crypto president, we've seen a lot of wild predictions as to where Bitcoin goes from here. Have you just adjusted any of your predictions on where it goes from here?
Well, I didn't know that he'd get the entire mandate that he got. So yes, I have adjusted mine, and it would be more like 150, 175,000 at this time next year. So in other words, about $100,000 higher than where each Bitcoin that is right now. And the reason for that optimism is that so many institutions and annuities, everything from endowments to big institutional trades, now will have, I think, a clearer path and a justifiable one to say, hey, this is supply and demand. There's a very limited supply, and thus we think that this could go significantly higher. I think that's reasonable because I'm a supply and demand guy. Doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. If you believe that demand creates higher prices unless it's met with much higher supply. It's being met with lesser and lesser supply. That's why we do these halvings with the cryptocurrencies. In other words, the rewards that are given out to the miners are less and less each time they do one of these halvings. In other words, it loses half of the reward to those miners. So you're not getting as many coins out. Thus, the price point for these coins should be going up if you have a broader embrace of crypto in general and you have a limited supply. Well, again, prices should be rising, and I believe they will.
On the air live with John Najarian, Dr. J. And let me ask you this. So what about Ethereum and the other names in the crypto world? Doge, of course, took the spotlight on election night, hitting the highest we've seen in quite some time, up around 22 cents. Even Doge got a pop this week at 19 cents here right now. But what about Ethereum, which, of course, also had those ETFs put into place this year? And anything else that you're tracking that's getting your attention?
Well, certainly Doge, because, again, Elon likes touting it. He didn't create it, but he loves touting that one. And Department of Efficiency.
Government efficiency.
That's one of the, government efficiency. He loves to put these acronyms together and match them up with his Doge. And I'm sure Donald Trump will let him do it after all the support he gave him. So I would think that Solana, Ethereum, Propy, Propy, are the ones that I've been buying in the last 48 hours in addition to Bitcoin. And I think for those that don't trade ETFs as much but do trade stocks, I'd say Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Mara, which is Marathon Digital, Riot Blockchain. Those are all part of the ecosystem that I think benefit from this new crypto-friendly administration.
If Bitcoin does go to 150,000, would you sell it then?
At that level, I would lighten up some, but I am really a buy and hold guy when it comes to Bitcoin itself. Some of these others that I've named, like Propy, like Solana, like Ethereum, I'm willing to trade those. They have much larger supplies. Doge in particular has a massive supply, but Bitcoin only will have 21 million Bitcoins in total when they finish, and that'll be 138 years from now, based on the mining that they're able to do for that particular coin. So I think that means, again, limited supply, more massive demand that grows by the day. I think that means I should just hold on to Bitcoin.
Aside from the inauguration of President Trump in January, is there anything else on the horizon that could move the cryptos? Any halving events or anything else? Any more ETF talk or anything else that's imminent? What was discussed at the conference there today, for example?
Well, I think we're going to hear a lot more when we say property rights. Certainly, people have looked at hotels. The St. Regis, for instance, in Aspen is tokenized. So in other words, people can own pieces of that by owning that token. But I think you're going to see a lot more assets in the ground. When we talk about blood diamonds and so forth, you're talking about a laser-etched marking on a diamond, for instance. I'm not saying that this tokenizing does away with that, but you can imagine, given the cobalt and manganese and lithium that need to get pulled out of the earth for these batteries, whether it's BYD batteries, whether it's Tesla's batteries or Panasonic's or whomever, all of that needs to have basically a provenance of where did it come from. Was it from some poor woman with a child on her back working in the Congo in a giant pit, which would be more or less the equivalent of a blood diamond or a blood lithium or a blood cobalt, or was it something that was derived out of seawater, for instance, which some lithium is, derived out of that, or whether it's on the ground in Peru or in Afghanistan or wherever. I think people are going to be demanding where did this particular rare earth mineral come from? And that's going to be a big thing going forward. Provability for that is one of the things that might lead us towards that tokenization of those assets, so that this one did come and you're able to trace it all the way back. It did come from a legitimate spot, not from slave labor in China, not from, again, some poor woman getting 25 cents a day with a child on her back as she's picking away at the ground to try to unearth some lithium and so forth.
On the Air Live with John Najarian, you mentioned Elon Musk in the context of Doge. Tesla, of course, also getting a lot of attention. That stock's been on a roll, more than $8 today to just below 300. And it appears the Trump trade is on. We've been following your social media feed closely. And of course, Wall Street cheering the election of President Trump this week. As far as the Trump trade is concerned, what's getting your attention?
Well, in that space, clearly the dollar, in the short term anyway, and the president-elect won't be able to do much about that except jawbone about it until he is seated as the new president, the 47th president. So I'm not so much thinking that he can weaken the dollar. He would, of course, like a dollar that was weaker only because it allows us to export more. But right now, the dollar is extremely strong because the rest of the world knows that more or less the United States is back. The United States is competing aggressively under a Trump administration. Hopefully, we don't have to enact those tariffs that we both speak of all the time. But if China has a tariff on our vehicles going into China, on Mr. Musk, or Lucid or Rivian or whatever it might be, or General Motors or Ford or, any of the vehicles that might be going into China from the U.S., we have to have that same sort of that reciprocity, if you will, that if you tax ours, we're going to tax yours. And unfortunately, that has not been done since President Trump left office. And the threat of those tariffs is probably one of the reasons that Xi Jinping reached out to the president, probably to negotiate rather than just experience a tariff that might cause production of China EVs to drop dramatically outside for the exports outside of China. And I think that would be a good outcome. I don't think tariffs are something any of us really want to see, but I do think that you have to basically have a level playing field. And right now it is not, if they're taxing our exports into China and we're not taxing theirs. We have to equalize that or they win.
Given the election and the Dow and the other major averages hitting record highs in reaction to this, Bitcoin at a record high, and you having the unique experience of having just been at a Bitcoin crypto conference in Miami and now at the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and it's always a thrill to be there. I've always felt that, and I'm sure you feel the same right now. What is the mood at both of the places that you interacted with all the folks there today?
I think people that it was probably a minority, but the minority of folks that were at the crypto conference that weren't huge fans of President Trump were nonetheless realizing that he is, like I say, a very crypto-friendly president and will probably put forward a crypto-friendly administration. It won't be Gary Gensler heading up the SEC. Or the person that he puts in charge of the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. I think both of those will benefit from having people there that President Trump has vetted and that he believes will support the sort of development that now has been pushed offshore. I mean, Coinbase, it's wonderful that Coinbase is still here onshore, but the Winklevi and a number of other big crypto companies have left our shore. They've gone to Malta, they've gone to Dubai, they've gone to Zug in Switzerland, and they will not come back. Once they leave, it's too easy for them to stay offshore and basically pay no taxes and all the rest. That's not the result any of us want. We'd rather have the innovation and the jobs here, and that's, I think, what he brings to the party.
Speaking of party, you got a big event there on the New York Stock Exchange benefiting Building Homes for Heroes. I just pulled up their Instagram page and we'll be looking for your feed tonight on that wonderful event. Anything you'd like to say about that group tonight where giants such as yourself in the financial world have gathered to support combat wounded veterans and others?
Well, we're all blessed to have brave men and women. I just saw a beautiful, relatively young woman walking around in a very fashionable dress, and then when you look down, you realize that she has one leg and the other leg is an artificial leg because of an IED, to have her be able to walk around a house without ramps and without other things that would allow her to move about as freely as she is now able to would be a terrible thing. And yet there are thousands of people with stories like that that are even in much worse states. But the good news is that these guys, buildingHomesForHeroes.org, they provide the complete home for these wounded veterans that is able to accommodate lack of eyesight if they lost their sight. It's able to accommodate wheelchairs and other means of transportation if that's what's required for paraplegics or even quadriplegics and so forth. And they do it with absolutely no cost. The founder, I was talking to him at length tonight, he has never taken a dime for doing the work, God's work that he does. And they've built over 390 homes for these veterans, and not a single one has a mortgage. They deliver the home completed to them, ready to go, fully equipped with what's necessary for that person to live their best life with a very challenging injury that they've incurred basically doing our bidding overseas.
That's wonderful, John. Well, thank you for sharing that. And again, the website is buildinghomesforheroes.org. Hope our listeners join in supporting you in that event there tonight on the New York Stock Exchange floor. And we'll be looking for your updates on Instagram, on X, formerly known as Twitter. John, thank you very much. We'll let you get back to what's happening there and hopefully speak to you many more times here with all the exciting things going on. John Najarian, Dr. J, as he's known in the major financial networks, co-founder of Market Rebellion. The book, by the way, is It's No Longer an Option. John, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Of course. Thank you very much, Frank. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you very much. And out to the freeways we go here in Southern California.